So one challenge or opportunity, depending on how you view it, here we are. We talked today about seeding depth and the importance of seeding depth and the importance of uniform seeding depth for high yields. So I mentioned earlier on today that I recommend planting wheat to a seeding depth of 1 inch, and it's quite important to achieve uniform and consistent seeding depth. But right here we have some wheel tracks. Maybe these are from a sprayer. These are probably 3/4 of an inch deep. They could be an inch deep, they could be deeper. So if you just said, for example, these cleat tracks were an inch deep and you were seeding an inch deep with the seeder, you would have seeds on top of the ground if you had a seeding depth of 1 inch and the cleats were an inch deep. So ideally, I'm going to encourage producers to move to a controlled traffic system, which is kind of on the periphery of some farming operations. Some farmers are perhaps looking at it a little closer, but controlled traffic is as simple as this. You end up with, for example, a 40-foot seeder, a 40-foot head on the combine, an 80-foot or 120-foot sprayer, and you basically operate on the same tracks as your seeding equipment or your combine passes. You basically, everything remains the same. So when your tractor puts down a pair of tracks to seed with, your combine runs down the same tracks, your sprayer runs down the tracks. So you're basically eliminating all of your heavy traffic from grain carts, from combines, from tractors, from sprayers. The only thing that's going to be an exception to that is like wing wheels on seeders, and when you're seeding, the majority of the weight is obviously transferred from the frame to the openers, so you've not got much weight on these. So that in itself is going to eliminate a lot of these, if not all of the wheel tracks. And you can look at information on the internet on controlled traffic. One of the best sources on controlled traffic, in my opinion, will probably be Alberta or Australia, where they've been using controlled traffic the longest, certainly Australia, and they're seeing significant yield responses, perhaps in the order of 15%, when they get into a complete controlled traffic system. So that's kind of a goal, okay? In amongst controlled traffic is an older topic. Some farmers have been using them for 30 or 40 years now, especially in Western Europe, and that's tramlines. So just think for a minute. Here we've got 7.5-inch rows, okay, which is obviously what we recommend, not wider. And tramlines essentially divert seed. So if you can just imagine for a minute, instead of planting these two 7.5-inch rows with a pair of motors and basically tramming assemblies, at seeding time we're going to divert seed and fertilizer from these two rows to these two rows. And if you're running narrower tires and narrower rows, maybe you just need to divert one. But I'm just going to say for example purposes right now, we're going to divert every third pass with a 40-foot seeder and a 120-foot boom. We're going to divert seed and fertilizer from this row to this row and from this row to this row. So basically you've got a small unseeded skip, if you will. Every third pass with a 40-foot drill, you'll have a pair of these tram lines, which were the same tracks that you used to seed the crop with. Ideally they'd be the same two tracks that you harvested the crop with the year before and previous years onwards. And you're going to use these two tracks as a guide to run your sprayer down. Obviously it can be hooked into auto steer systems, and basically all you're doing is you're diverting the seed to let you run a row crop piece of spraying equipment through the field with a minimum yield loss, rather than just running it down with auto steer and you've got a lost yield of 3 to 5% relative to how wide your boom is to the width of your tires. So tram lines are not new to most people, but they're a way of running a row crop sprayer or a row crop piece of equipment through the field without the yield loss that the wheel tracks cause. So you're basically running down between stretched out wheat rows.